Hello, welcome to B.E.P Talks, where we bring you weekly guests. Here today, another. Hi, and welcome to this edition of B.E.P Talks, where every week we bring you fascinating guests from all walks of life, from all around the world, with various areas of expertise, who come here to share their beliefs, their experiences, and their passions with you, our audience, hoping to inspire, to motivate, educate, even entertain. And today certainly is absolutely no exception. Our very special guest today is Jim Ryan. So I welcome you, Jim, to B.E.P Talks.
Thank you, Beth. Pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really look forward to this. I want to let our audience know a little bit about you. You have lots of credentials. You are a motivational speaker. You're a published author. I love the term that you are a leading edge thinker. Boy, can't we use some more of those these days? You are a visionary, and you help people through your aha moments find their aha moments, the things that sometimes are deep down inside of us that we just have to have that moment of realizing that it's been in us all the time. So again, I welcome you. And something that I really want to lead with here, Jim, and cannot appreciate you enough for, that as a professional speaker, a coach, someone who does the retreats, brings out, again, those aha moments. This all started as a volunteer. Tell us about that.
Well, that's it. That's how I usually open my talks, Beth. As I say, this part of my life started way back in the year 2000. I've done a bunch of things professionally in my life. I was a foreign language teacher. I was a guidance counselor in a middle school. I was in business. I was a financial advisor for over 25 years. But I've always been interested in personal development. I've always read a lot, gone to seminars, listened to tapes. And back in the year 2000, I just realized I had all of this stuff in my head. And I said, what's the point of having it in my head? I got to get it out of my head. So I spoke to some friends, and I was directed to the local jail up on Long Island in Suffolk County. And every Monday, I would go to the jail and I would teach a class in personal development to men who were locked up for multiple DWI convictions. Like you said, it was a volunteer thing, and it was one of the best things I ever did. It was a program that I made up as I went along, and it morphed into a 10 to 12-week program. And I'd go from week 1 to week 10 and come back to week 1, go to week 10. And the men, they would come and go, but they'd shake my hand. They'd say, thank you. It just filled me up to go there. And about 3 years into that, I said, if these guys like the program, maybe people on the outside will like it too. So I came up with a talk from a couple of the units that I taught at the jail, and I started giving talks in libraries. And along the way, they had me teach the women at the jail who were locked up for the same thing, and their response was similar. It was so gratifying. It was a long drive to get out to the jail. I didn't like to get up early to go there, but when I got there, it was just the best. It was such a wonderful feeling, especially the positive response that I got from the men and women. So I started giving talks in libraries. One talk led to another about how to be happy, how to be at your best every day, how to manage your thoughts. And along the way, I wrote this book called Simple Happiness, 52 Easy Ways to Lighten Up. And then I say, anybody know anybody who could lighten up? We could all lighten up. But it's been the most exciting time of my life, being out in the public, talking about how to be happy, how to be at your best every day, something we all crave, but it's so often pushed in the back of our minds because we've got so many issues that we deal with, our personal responsibilities, our family, our job, all of these things that tear us in all these different directions that we rarely think about why we do everything we do. And it is to be happy, to be fulfilled. And again, it's been the most exciting time of my life being out there. And my goal is to open people's eyes to the possibilities of having a happy, joyful life. My job is to throw out ideas for people to consider and to try on and see how they work in your life. And hopefully they'll bring more joy, more happiness to your life. So I've been giving these talks to all different kinds of audiences all over the country in the secular world. And about 9 years ago, a friend of mine, I'm a former Irish Christian brother. When I graduated from high school, I went into the religious life for 6 years, went through the training program, taught in a Catholic high school in Boston for 2 years. Then I decided that that vocation wasn't for me, but I've maintained my faith as a Catholic Christian all these years. And one night, one of my former students, one of my classmates from the brothers was in the audience. And he said, Jim, this is a good talk, but it's so close to what Christ taught when he walked this earth. Why don't you weave in some gospel and you could give talks in churches? I said, that's a good idea. So that's what I did. And over the past 9 years, not only have I, dealt with corporations and associations and companies and how to be happy, how to be at your best every day, happy people make successful companies, all that kind of stuff. I've also done over 50 retreats in churches all over the country as well. And so I deal in both worlds, the religious world and the secular world. So it's a great carryover from one to the other. The message is similar, but I just keep God out of the secular talks. And it's been a real pleasure for me. Today, I want to just give you a little taste of one of my signature talks. I have two signature talks.
Let me stop you there just for a second, Jim, because I want to give you that platform. I just want to stop and say what an interesting way for you to choose your first audience, and how wonderful as I'm getting to know you and hearing your words, but I'm feeling your energy, is that you went from one, but this is itself a vocation, is what I'm feeling. And that you keep God out of the talk, but of course we know that he is there. And you are finding your happiness by helping others know that it's possible for them to find theirs. Wow, what a notion.
It's so gratifying, Beth. I mean, I'm so blessed to do this. I've been so blessed to be able to communicate in both worlds to people, lift them up, give them some pop. And you're right. My energy, I can't contain it. I get excited. I
totally feel it. We're very far apart. We're states apart. Excuse me. Yeah. I'm getting my energy up here. I'm getting choked up. I'm going to invite you now, as if we were one of maybe your typical kind of audiences, or you can tell us, share with us what you would say to an audience, I guess from the secular or whatever you choose. It would be so wonderful for us to continue to capture your energy and find those aha moments for ourselves. Can we get you to do that?
I'd love to. And before I start, one of the things that separates me from other speakers is my musical ability. I always open every talk with a song. I play the guitar. I've been playing guitar for years and years. I love to sing, and I always start off. A lot of times I'll introduce myself and say, I used to not play my guitar at the beginning of a program, but I play it at the beginning, in the middle of a program as a transition. And when I would do it in the middle of a program, there'd always be a certain aura of anxiety among the audience. Something like, oh, Jim, you've done okay until now. Don't embarrass yourself. So it was never spoken, but I always felt that aura of anxiety, of nervousness, wanting, they're rooting for me at this point. So I would say to the audience, don't worry. I've been playing guitar for a long time, and I'm not a bad singer. And wouldn't you know, one night, a woman raises her hand and says, we'll be the judge of that. So,
but people ask me not to.
Well, but again, I'm not bad. I'm not bad. So I love to do it, and it just disarms the audience. They're expecting one thing and they get another. And music, I find, just opens people up to ready. It's a wonderful experience. Just live music to feel it, to hear the words.
It's a universal.
Yeah. I usually sing a Peaceful, Easy Feeling by the Eagles, and I say, I hope we end today's program with a peaceful, easy feeling, because that's my demeanor. I'm not a yeah rah rah guy. I just have the ability I've found to get into the underbelly of people in a friendly, non-confrontational way that people will say to themselves, you know what, I'm going to try that. So anyway, let me just give you a little taste
I'm
of
going
one of my
to
keynotes.
I'm going to
It's
turn the other stage over to you so our audience gets to know you and they'll be the judge. So here, my pleasure to introduce to you Jim Ryan. Take it away, Jim.
Thanks, Beth. Um, One of my keynotes is managing thought, the key to success in business and in life. Now, so many of us think our thoughts are our lives, but really, thoughts are just thoughts. And if we can understand that concept that a thought is just a thought, it's not my life. However, the thoughts that we choose to hang on to do become our lives, good or bad. And this is where people drive themselves crazy with our thoughts. And I've discovered that we have our thought systems. If we could just let go of the negative thoughts and hang on to the good thoughts, our lives would get better immediately. Sounds simple, right? It is simple, but certainly not easy. And why isn't it easy? Because we've been thinking the way we've been thinking our whole lives. So we have these thought systems that we've developed over our life. We've been born of parents, we've had teachers, we've had coaches, we've had friends, we've had experiences, and we have developed a certain way of thinking about a lot of different things. We say things like, well, that's how I've always done it. That's how it's supposed to be. So we've developed a way of looking at the world, a way of processing every event through our own filters. And there's a lot of good things in our thought systems. There's our loyalty, our generosity, all these good things. But sometimes there's the negatives there that hold us back, our shoulds, our ought tos, our musts. So sometimes our thoughts can get in the way of really experiencing joy and happiness in our life. And the thought systems are not going away. They're really deep seated in who we are. And that's what we say. That's who I am. That's how we've always done it. Now, they're not going away, but there's hope. There's hope because just like we have our thought systems, we also have what I call our natural state of mind, where there's peace and joy, tranquility, solutions to problems, our genius. We all have that part of our brain, our mind as well. And the thing is, how do we get over to our natural state of mind where it's all good, where there's joy, tranquility, solutions to problems, our peace, versus the stress and anxiety sometimes of our thought systems? How do we do that? Well, number one, you've got to want to be in your natural state of mind. It's a question of intention. So many of us wear our stress like a badge. If you lived where I lived, if you had the commute that I had, if you had the co-workers or the boss that I had, if you had and on and on and on about the negativity, what do you think your life is going to be if that's your thought pattern that you hang on to and voice all the time? So number one, you've got to want to be in your natural state of mind. And number two, you've got to know what it feels like to be in your natural state of mind. So what we're going to do just for a minute, very quickly here today, because we're limited time. What we're going to do is we're going to just practice being in our natural state of mind. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe. You can leave your eyes open. You can close them. It doesn't matter. We're going to breathe. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pay attention to the physical aspect of breathing. Okay. Now, we've been breathing all day, so that's not going to be any different. But for now, for this exercise, we're going to pay attention. We're going to feel our lungs and diaphragm expand and contract. You can breathe through your mouth, breathe through your nose. It doesn't matter. And what's going to happen is a thought is going to pop into your head. You can't stop the thoughts. But in this exercise, we're going to just notice the thought and let it go and come back to the physical breathing, paying attention to the breath. Let's do that just for a few seconds to get the feel, and then we're going to come back. Now, in my talks, we do this for 30 seconds to a minute. And what happens to many people is they get the feeling of relaxation. I always feel my shoulders start to slump a little bit as I release some tension in my neck and upper spine that I don't even know that I have. But when I start to pay attention to my breath, I start to relax. And believe me, there's nothing wrong with relaxing once in a while. And what do we call this activity that we just participated in very briefly? That's right, it's meditation. And meditation in its simplest form is just being without doing anything, just being. Deepak Chopra, the Indian medical doctor and spiritual teacher, he says, what are we, human doings or human beings? Sometimes doing nothing, just breathing, can be the most productive part of our day. And this is a time when we can just relax. And the whole point, not so much relaxing is good, but the point of this exercise is to realize I am not my thoughts. My thoughts are just things that pass through my mind. And I have the ability to either hang on to the thoughts or let them go. And that's what this meditative exercise exemplifies. The ability to notice a thought, let it go. I am not my thoughts. Everybody say that to yourself. I am not my thoughts. And this is a wonderful breakthrough if you can really grasp the idea that thoughts are just thoughts. They're not you. They're not essential to who you are. They're just things that pass through your head. Many are the same thoughts that you thought yesterday and the day before and the day before. That's all those thought systems that tend to guide our lives in a certain way. By meditating, by being in our natural state of mind, we kind of get off the main highway and relax on a side road in the country where we can just drive easily and enjoy the ride. So the more you do this meditative exercise, the better you get at it. And by the way, how much does meditation cost? Nothing. That's right. That's right. Well, you need a special outfit, right? Well, I mean, sometimes that might help. Sometimes, meditating in a special place in your house or having a mantra or holding on to something can help you maintain your focus. And some of us are going to be better at meditating and some of us may not be so good because, some of us have placid, peaceful personalities and some of us are more energetic and high strung, but everybody can try it. Everybody can get better at it. And I encourage you and I challenge you to try to do it because it can be such a benefit to understand that I am not my thoughts. Boy, if you can come away with just that one idea, because our thoughts bind us up. We get so caught up in going down this negative spiral of sadness. But understanding that, recognizing that thought and letting it go and choosing to fill your mind with a positive thought. And I always tell my audiences, when you have some quiet time, write down 25 things that you're grateful for. Big things, little things, the ability to watch this program, the ability to get out of bed by yourself in the morning, all these little mundane things that we take for granted. If we could, move away from the negative thought and bring ourselves to a thought of gratitude, man, your life is going to get better little by little by little. And you're going to notice it. You're going to have more control over what goes on in your life. I always say, tell my audiences, especially in the jail, what kind of a life do you want for yourself? Do you want to be under stress all the time? Do you want to be anxious? Do you want to be worried? Or do you want to be peaceful? You want to have tranquility in your life where you're in control. And this little meditative exercise helps you do just that. And since I've been involved in these talks and the jail work, there's been a lot going on in the psychological community. Around 2000, when I got started, there was a movement in the psychological world. A fellow named Martin Seligman was a professor of psychology at University of Pennsylvania. He became the president of the American Psychological Association. And he saw this august group of professionals who were helping people who had problems. But that, as good as that is, he saw that they were really not doing much for anybody who was doing okay to increase their well-being. So he came up with the idea of positive psychology. So before his entrance on the scene, there were hardly any studies done by psychologists in the area of happiness. It was always, phobia, uh, eating problems, all these negative things that people have to, psychologists help people deal with, which was fine. But when he introduced the concept of positive psychology, thousands of studies have been done on happiness. And here's the prevailing wisdom today. Okay, you understand psychology is a science. It's a moving target like so many sciences. What we thought was true years ago has been proven untrue. So here's the prevailing wisdom. Out of 100% of our happiness, about 50% of our happiness is our what is it's our upbringing. It's our genetics. We were born of parents. If my parents were the life of the party, chances are I've got an outgoing personality. If my parents were quiet and shy, chances are I've inherited some of those qualities. So 50% of our happiness is genetic. We're born of parents. So we have tendencies. And that's an important word, tendencies. We're not, they're not ingrained in us. 10%, the studies show, is our circumstance. Did I grow up in a happy family or was it dysfunctional? Did I go to a good school or was it run by the hooligans? So it's our circumstance that we've gone through in our life. And you know what the other 40% of our happiness is? 40%? That's right. What we do with what we have. Boy, that's a big chunk of our happiness is what we do with what we have. Because none of us is really stuck unless we think we're stuck, unless that's part of our thought systems. Woe is me, my only luck is bad luck, all that kind of stuff. But we're not stuck. 40% of our happiness is what I do with what I've got. And we've seen person after person situation where people have overcome difficulties, overcome physical, mental, relationship, familial difficulties to emerge on the other side being happy and productive and joyful in their lives. So it's possible. See, that's one of my goals is to open people's eyes to the possibilities of having a great life. Why give in to your thought systems that might tend to be negative? You've got the ability, and it takes time, takes practice, takes patience to let go of those negatives and hang on to the positives. And so it's our thoughts that really make things happen. And when I give a talk, usually I'll be on a stage and I'll have 3 chairs up on the stage and I'll do a little demonstration. And it's a demonstration, not so much of our thoughts, but of our self-talk. What am I telling myself about me? Because more than the thoughts, it's what this conversation that we have with ourselves really is where the rubber meets the road. And I'll sit in one chair and I'll say, well, my family was a wreck growing up. My father was an alcoholic. He was in and out of work. Couldn't really keep a job. We never went on vacation. We always had to buy our clothes from the thrift shop. We never went out to eat. I was never able to go on any school trips because we couldn't afford the fee. I could never invited any friends over because I never knew what shape my house was going to be in. My mother was always yelling at me because she was always under pressure. We never knew when my father was going to come home. And if he did come home, what kind of shape he'd be in. Why do you think I am the way I am? Come on. Then I get up and I move to the middle chair. And I say the same story about my upbringing, my dysfunctional family, my alcoholic father, my distant mother, and all the same stuff. And then I say, when I get into high school, I had an English teacher, and she gave us a writing assignment. We could either write a poem or a short story. I chose to write a poem, and we turned the papers in, and we got them back a couple of days later, and mine had an A on the top of it, and with a note, please see me after class. So that's what I did. I went up to my teacher and she complimented me on the work and asked if she could read the poem or if I could read the poem to the class the next day. I said, sure. And she also suggested that I put the poem in the school newspaper. They're always looking for submissions from students for the school paper. So I did that as well. I read the poem the next day, and surprisingly enough, some of the kids liked it. They came up afterwards and said, you really wrote that? That was good. All of a sudden, I felt better about me. I felt I had some value. It was in the school newspaper. kids would come up to me in the hall that I didn't even know, and they complimented me on the poem. I guess it struck a chord with a lot of people. All of a sudden, I felt better about me. I felt I didn't have to hide. I felt my friends were more anxious to listen to what I had to say. I didn't have to hide myself. I still had the secondhand clothes, but again, I started to feel better about me. I went on to college. I got a degree, found a nice woman to marry, have a couple of kids. I've overcome a lot. Then I moved to the third chair. And I tell the same story as the first chair and the second chair, how, my family, we couldn't even answer the phone because it was going to be a bill collector. Never couldn't even get a pet because we couldn't afford the pet food, all that. We never had celebrated holidays with my family because we couldn't trust my father to behave himself. Then I went into the second chair and talked about how my English teacher had given me an opportunity to write, and it turned out to be a positive step in my life because I got some good feedback. My self-esteem started to grow. I felt better about me. I went on to college, got a degree, found a nice woman to marry, got a good job. I've overcome a lot. Then I got a call last Saturday from a friend, and he said, "Are you doing anything next week?" And I said, "Next Saturday?" He said, "Yeah, next Saturday." I said, "No, I don't think so. Why?" He said, "Well, I volunteer down at the Y, and we teach underprivileged kids classes in writing and music." He says, "I take care of the music and the art classes, but the fellow that taught the writing class has been sick and he's going to be out for a while. Would you mind helping out? Because I know you've done some writing." I said, "All right, I'll try it." So I went down to the appointed place at the appointed time that weekend on Saturday, and we each had little classes of 4 to 5 underprivileged kids. And I would give them a writing assignment. They could either write a poem, they could write a short story, they could draw a picture and write a caption. And I would go from little kid to little kid and compliment them on their work. And you know what? I'd give them a compliment and their face would light up. Their smile was as big as their face. And I couldn't hide my joy when I saw their joy. It was such a wonderful experience. I can't wait to go back next week. And after I would do that for a couple of weeks, and I'd come out of that class every Saturday. I say, "I can't believe how good my life is." And that's a goal that I try to throw out there for my audiences to come to the point where we can say, "I can't believe how good my life is." And we go on from there. But it's a friendly way to hit people between the eyes to say, stop telling yourself all the negatives that you feel about yourself. You can get over those. And we go on to do some other illustrations about how we can get rid of some of the nagging negatives that keep us from really experiencing a life of joy and happiness. So it's been a lot of fun. The response has been really good. I get people coming up to me at the end of a talk saying stuff like, "I thought you were talking directly to me." It's so much fun when you get into the people's minds and in a positive way to give them encouragement and hope that their life is going to get better. And it's just a kick. I got a call. I continued to speak in the public in the secular world as well as the retreat world. So if you have the opportunity to bring me in to give a talk for your group, for your association, for your company, for your church, could be in person, it could be via Zoom, but it's worthwhile. People walk away saying, "What am I so miserable for? I got a lot to be grateful for." It can change people's lives. And my book, Simple Happiness, is often an add-on to a talk. Sometimes the sponsor of the talk will purchase a copy for all the attendees, and that's what's happening in my upcoming talk. In a few weeks, they're buying books for 80 people who are going to be attending a 3-day conference where I'll be closing out the event with a talk on the final day. So again, it's fun, it's uplifting, and audiences love it. I can't wait to speak to you to see if you have an opportunity for me to speak at one of your events. Thank you very much.
Oh, Jim, that was wonderful. You make it sound so easy. And then I'm saying, but it's not hard. It's kind of a decision you make to find happiness where it is. And the things that we often complain about, you said it before you did your talk. Oh, I have to go to work. Oh, I have to mow the lawn. Well, you have a job. You have a house that has a lawn that has to be mowed. Those are the things that should bring us happiness. So I'm saying that the word gratitude has to play a very important part in understanding.
Absolutely. People say, Jim, I want to be happy. How do I get started? Well, number one, you've got to want to be happy. You have to understand it's possible. And just like you said, number two, gratitude is the place to start. Write down 25 things you're grateful for. When you catch yourself thinking about something going wrong in your life, switch it over to something that's going right in your life. We have so much going right in our lives if we would just pay attention to those things and be grateful for them.
Absolutely. So it's a state of mind. I guess it's human nature to err on the side of negativity. Sadly, I feel that that is true, that people complain more than they compliment, that the glass is half empty, not half full, even though it's exactly the same. It's the perspective that people have. So you're telling us what I'm gleaning from this is that that meditation puts us in that natural state where we kind of calm, we kind of lower the energy, change the thought pattern, and open up new channels.
That's it. That's it. Yep. And with the glass half empty, half full. You know what I say? I say, what half full? I want a full glass. And you know what? Next year I want a bigger glass, full. And it's not from the having that gives me the full glass. It's from the giving. And if people would understand, that's the key: is giving.
I wrote that down here on my notes. When you were speaking, I said it's when you give that you receive. And we know there are some very popular songs. It is in giving that we receive. I mean, that's in a very popular hymn, one of my favorites. And there is so much joy in that. But why do people expect when you give that people are supposed to fawn all over you? And you should be grateful. You should always say thank you. That's nothing less than polite. But give for the sake of giving.
Well, that's it. In my other talk, one of the characteristics of happy people is they're giving. And so often we got to look in our hearts. What's in our heart as you're giving? Because if you're giving to get something back, like you say, to have people fawn all over me, that's kind of shallow. It's very transitory. It's not really deep. But if you're giving just in the hope that someone else's life might be better, that's where the joy comes from, without being paid, without being patted on the back. Well, nice to be patted on the back, but the motivation is to give, and that's the pure motive that really blossoms in your heart.
Right, right. And it's such a simple thing. And it could be something as simple as smiling at somebody or holding a door for someone. It is very simple thing. And what I've always said to people in my coaching is that we really have no right to expect certain things from certain people just because we expect it, because we think we're owed it, or due it, or deserve it. That's really up to the other person. And I always say, too, you never know what's going on in that person's life, the last conversation they may have had. So if you can bring just a smile, and guess what? I have found myself walking and I don't even realize like I'm smiling. Maybe it's because of a thought I'm having. And you realize people are smiling back at you. And it's the most like natural thing to, and guess what? Just in the act of smiling, we do release very good endorphins.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, before we started to have our call today, you got me thinking. I consider myself a happy person, a grateful person for sure. I don't rely on luck. I rely on blessings, which I have abundantly through at least that 50% of my genetics. And that's kind of what I rely on. We hear, going back to your numbers, that life is 90% of what happens to you and 10%. No, it's 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.
That's all we have control of. We don't have control over what other people are saying or doing. The only thing we have control of is how we respond to that circumstance. See, I could go on. I mean, it's not the circumstances of my life that make all the difference, but so many people think it is. But it's how I deal with those circumstances. I mean, we see people who are millionaires, who have every physical, every material good, and so on, who are miserable, committing suicide, divorcing, and we have people who have relatively nothing. They have a roof over their head. They work for minimum wage, but they're joyful. They're loving. They're happy. How does that happen? I mean, we think, so often our values are misplaced. It's in, it's in the giving and it's in the loving and the smiling that happiness exists.
I'm just realizing I didn't actually complete my thought from earlier. And knowing that I was going to have the opportunity to speak with you and get to know you better, and help others to get to know you as well. I started thinking about happiness, and I said, is it something that evades some people, or that some people sadly evade or avoid because why but they avoid it. They don't see the things that they really should be grateful for. Well, I guess that's just the thoughts and the human tendency.
I take the very simple approach. I don't try to go back and analyze people of why they're this way, why they're that way. I take people from where they are and say, you want to have a better life? I don't care about your past. This is what you do. Do it today. Write a list of 25 things you're grateful for. Do the meditation. Understand your thoughts are just thoughts. So stop complaining. Stop moaning and groaning. Make your life better today. And you read a biography of a famous person. Almost everybody has had things to overcome. So get off. Jack Canfield, one of my mentors, he says psychologists say that 85% of people come from homes that are somewhat dysfunctional. So if you got a problem and you're blaming, the answer is yes. So what? You're no different than anybody else. So get over yourself. So, I mean, these are not easy things to do. I'm simplifying, but I try to take people right where they are and say, okay, how can I make my day better today? And how can I make tomorrow a little bit better? Not trying to unpack all my woes from, childhood, and they're there. Okay. You can't, that's like the wake of the boat. Wayne Dyer talks about all the things in my past are in the past. And that wake just tells me where I've been, but it doesn't tell me where I'm going. So I now can take control, captain that boat in a direction that I want, that makes me feel good in my own way. It's fun to wake people up, to give people ideas about how to get unstuck.
So, okay, so you have your book. I love that it's 52, like one a week.
When I wrote the book, from the style of don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. That was written by Richard Carlson years ago. He's passed away, but it's a simple, easy to read, friendly type of book. And that's what I wanted. I wanted people who are good readers, bad readers, have a lot of time, have a little time. I just wanted to make it a simple, easily read book, simple, but not unsophisticated. And that's who knew I could write a book? Who knew? But it's turned out to be such a blessing to so many people. And you can get it on my website. If you go to my website, can I give you the website, Beth?
I'm going to give it. Yes, you can mention it, but I'm going to put up here where people can be in touch with you. Let me get right there. There's a link right there. You can go right to Jim Ryan Talks. You could
buy the book there, or you could go on Amazon. The book is on Amazon as well. If you want to buy multiple copies, which a lot of times this is the time of year. I just had an email from somebody who wants to buy 25 copies to give to the people in his office for a Christmas gift. So that, it's a great gift. It's something that's meaningful, something that can change somebody's life, change many lives. Because a lot of times people read the book and they pass it along to someone they care about. So again, it's been a real blessing. And while you're on the website, you can sign up for my aha moments. Every week, I send out what I call an aha moment, a little uplifting thought, something positive to help you get through the week. They're free. You can always unsubscribe. I know email can be crazy. And I'm not going to be offended if you unsubscribe. It's okay, because life gets crazy, but they're free, and a lot of people like them. A lot of people then forward them to their friends and family. And I have 2 emails. One is the secular email, and the other is a God-centered email that I send out on Friday. So, send me an email. My email is info@jimryantalks.com. Sign up for my email, and they're fun. It keeps me on my toes. I'm up to tomorrow, number 806. So I've done 806 weeks. That's over 15 years I've been doing these aha moments. It keeps me on my toes, and hey, it spreads some joy. Keeps you on track, gives you something to think about that might help. So they're free. Try it out.
What better time of year to say there really is so much that we should be grateful for, that should bring us happiness. We have to decide, we have to choose, get rid of the negative self-talk, as you said. And you reminded me also when you were chatting, I felt bad for myself because I had no shoes until I saw the man who had no feet. But happiness is very, very subjective. And
it's perspective. It's all about perspective, how we see things.
Yeah.
So much. So.
And everything in life is like that. I was chatting with someone last week about perspective, but there were facts. There were facts. I said, but facts and perspectives are not the same thing. You can show someone all the facts in the world, but if they're thinking differently, they have a perspective. They're allowed to have a perspective, and you are allowed to have one as well, and they don't have to agree. That's when you engage in hopefully intelligent conversation, which I hope more people are willing to have these days, because it's all about communication. Whatever it is, it's got to start with good, open, heart-centered communication, which is what we try to do here on B.E.P Talks. So, Jim, you have been such an inspiration. As I said earlier, your happiness flows, obviously. We see it, we feel it. I am grateful for it. I know anybody who listens to this episode of B.E.P Talks, and we'll get it out to tens of thousands, will be blessed to hear it as well. And again, we have these talks every week. We invite people to be, like Jim is, a guest on B.E.P Talks, where we bring you where they share their beliefs, experiences, and passions, hoping that bring more joy, more happiness, more fulfillment, more information to your life. So you can simply go to beptalks.com for more information. As we always say here at B.E.P Talks, may the best always be yet to come. And while this is a conversation not limited to this time of year, it's actually December right now. So we're getting close to that very special time of the year. This is a 52 weeks. Get Jim's book. It's a 52-week-a-year deal. So Jim, I thank you so much for taking your time and for sharing your beliefs, your experiences, your passions. And we'll be back again next week with another fantastic guest here at B.E.P Talks. So until we talk again, bye for now.